Okay, I'm here with a person I've known, as associated with, for off and on for a few years. And you did not want the questions in advance.
Correct.
Let's see, that is recording, right? I always have to check. Okay, first question is, what is most important?
Survival.
Survival? Okay. That seems to be on Maslow's pyramid of needs.
Yeah, probably.
If we've met all of Maslow's needs, what do you think would be most important?
I'm not familiar with Maslow's pyramid. I think I've seen it once a long time ago.
If your basic survival needs are met, you've got food, shelter, clothing, maybe even employment, whatever you want to consider to be as a survival need.
Okay.
So if the needs for survival have been met, what would be most important?
I would say other people. Having social interaction.
Okay. I've heard connecting with others. That sounds to be along those lines.
Yeah. I don't seem to need as much of that as a lot of other people do, but I do need it. I can't knock it completely out of my life or existence, because I do feel a void when I try that or forget to do it.
Yeah, to socially interact.
Right. Because I do get wrapped up in other things that I'm doing, and sometimes I forget to get out and talk to other people. So.
Yeah. My body is becoming the shape of my couch.
And mine in front of the keyboard.
Yeah. Well, I have my keyboard set up in front of a section of my couch.
There you go.
Okay, so here's one along the lines of what I was talking about, how people don't understand what atheists or agnostics or even religious people are. And so this question is, what is your relationship with religion? And if you could describe the point where you had decided it was or was not for you.
Religion to me is superfluous. It's absolutely unnecessary. Decided that when I was about 6. My dad was a Catholic, my mother was a Methodist, and they baptized me Episcopal. And then she converted to Episcopal just so she could be like me, I guess. In Sunday schools, they would proselytize and give us these stories and things, and I would ask questions. Apparently, I wasn't supposed to do that. They couldn't answer half the questions I asked, and of course that made them angry, and they didn't react well. And to a 6-year-old, I mean, these are adults, they should have had a little bit more composure and maturity, yeah. But then I just decided, well, I stopped going to that. And I decided that I would just observe people and what they do and how they react in situations, and I've done that pretty much all my life. I think partly because my mother had told me once not to judge other people too harshly, right, in the immediacy, but to kind of search for a reason why they might be behaving the way they are. So I kind of took that to heart and always observed people and tried to figure out why they might be acting the way they are without rationalization, not trying to fantasize why they might do that, but trying to look for anything I knew about them or could observe around them that might motivate that behavior. And so I dealt with a lot of religious people. I mean, we're surrounded by them. All my life. And what I found for the most part, is that it's mostly lip service and jumping on the bandwagon. Most of them don't have a, quote, deeply held belief. They don't live what they talk about. They don't practice what they preach. In fact, most of their actions, behaviors, seem to be contrary to what they profess their religion is all about. I think that their participation in the religious thing is more of a social trigger. It's triggered more by a social need than by actual deep-held beliefs or deeply seated beliefs. They have a tendency to like all the social activities that the churches provide, and I can see that there are a lot of good things that happen, in terms of socialization and helping other people and this kind of things. But there's also a lot of greed and ripping off other people, and even to the point of larger businesses causing deaths of people, in entire groups and things, for the buck, for the dollar. And I had observed most of this by the time I was 11. So, I was my heroes were Einstein and John Wayne, because he always stood up for his position, even when it wasn't popular. But
so it sounds like with religion you find it lacks utility. Is that something I picked up on? Because you didn't say that, but I am interpreting.
I think it does have some utility, or its existence has served a need. That gives it some utility. However, I don't think it's necessary to exist for that utility to have been met. I think it can be met as we meet it here, in an atheist organization. We still have the same social gatherings and the camaraderie and other things, and the information sharing. We help poor people. We clean up the highways. We do a lot of things that the religious type people do. So I don't think the religion is necessary for the utility. However, I think the religion preceded the lack of religion, at least in number, by a lot of years, and so it just happens to be the established norm.
It also sounded like hypocrisy was a problem in religion for you.
It doesn't cause me a problem. It's just an observation. What causes me a problem is that religion really even exists. I find absolutely no justification for its continued control and the bad aspects of it.
That's what led me to believe that you didn't like the lack of utility, or maybe the lack of utility for you.
Well, it certainly has no utility for me.
Right.
But I would like to count religion among the extinct things on Earth.
Something for the
Eventually.
history books.
Right, exactly. I think that the sooner we can get more people involved in actually thinking and actually doing, the better it'll be for all mankind, rather than having them hide in these little shells of fantasy. One of my other observations in life, and I try not to be judgmental, but I am going to be accurate, and I'm not going to lie about my observations. I try to be as accurate as possible. I'm a mathematician. It's kind of the way we think. So I don't believe that religion is at all necessary. I do think that about 80%, rough number, of the population of the world are just stupid. I mean, there's no other way to say it. And
I would say at least ignorant. Stupidity
ignorance,
is,
yes, I think maybe that's a better word.
yeah. Stupidity usually requires ignorance,
Yes,
and they're closely associated most of the time,
I understand.
but they're not the same.
Right, you're right. They do have the capacity, so for not being ignorant. So stupid was not the right word. Ignorance is a better word. But I think 80% of the, at least, of the population that I've been able to observe, and I've been around quite a bit, and obviously there's billions of people I haven't observed. But I mean, you get bits and pieces in the news and things, and how different cultures do things, and another thing I've noticed is that very few great accomplishments have ever come from societies that live in extremely hot climates, like around the equator. You never hear of a great, scientist like Einstein or something coming from Guam, or
Okay,
or
I've not made that
Iraq,
observation.
or anywhere in the hot climates. It seems to me that most people that live in hot climates
Well, I think we got our
more
numbering.
violent.
Didn't we get our numbering system from the Arab world?
Yeah, we did. We did.
So that would
And
go against your
they
observation.
kind of got it from the Hindu world in
Yeah.
India too. But I'm saying in general, the majority. There are always going to be exceptions, and
That's my first rule, is that there are exceptions to all rules, including the first rule.
Exactly, exactly.
Okay, I think I've hammered the religion question. The third question is my fun question. And people have taken it two different directions, so now I have to ask it in two different ways.
Okay.
So, in your real life, is there anything that people would accuse you of being a hero for? This is another one where I get to watch the expressions on the face, and it's just,
Right.
it's pleasurable to me.
Two things come to mind.
Okay.
I was a teacher for many years, and I think fairly successful at getting the ideas across to people in a way that made them feel not as intimidated. Considering the topic is mathematics, I mean, most people are intimidated by that and or don't like to study.
I'm running through so many questions and conversations I want to have with you about math and science, but I'm going to try to stick to this.
Sure. There, I've gotten a lot of positive feedback. So that might be one area. Another is I've always have been the person who rescues people in bad situations. A girl on a bus was being mauled by this guy, or manhandled by this guy. She was about 18. He was an old derelict, drunk kind of guy. And so I rescued her from that situation. Just needed to. I just couldn't allow that to happen. And people in accidents and cars and stuff, I've been right there for that. These kinds of things. A big fire at a hotel. We got a bunch of people off the top floor, during this big blaze. And I directed that and the security teams that did that. I don't know about the hero aspect, but those are things that make me feel good about my existence. That my existence wasn't for nothing.
Yes. That's definitely heroic. My original question is if you were a superhero, what would your power be? And I was trying to look at the human reality aspect, and a few of them took it to the comic book and movie and cartoon world. So if you were a superhero in that universe, any of those universes, what would your powers be, and what would your superhero name be?
You mean in the comic book universe or the
Comic book,
other?
movies, whatever. The fantasy stuff.
Okay, because in the real world I have an idea, and in the
Oh,
fantasy world
let-
a different idea.
Then let's hear them both.
Okay. In the real world, I would like to be able to give people comfort and direction that would make their life better. If I could leave everyone better off than before they met me, that would be a superpower for me.
That's not far off from mine. My superpower in the fantasy world would be to give other people superpowers. And that's similar to that, I think. And what was your other one?
Well, the one in the fantasy world, then, I would, like in cartoons and comics and stuff, it would probably be kind of a cross between Superman and Gandhi.
Okay.
So I'd be able to protect, people, and at the same time help guide them toward a betterment of their own lives. Assuming I was wise enough to do that.
So superhero / philosopher, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know how you would classify Gandhi. I didn't watch a movie. I only know offhand about him.
Philosopher. Yeah, I think that's as good as any.
All right. Well, we're to my last question now. And would you like to ask me any questions?
No.
Okay. That's totally fair. I have been working on questions on a second set of interview questions.
Okay.
Would you like to hear any of those?
Sure.
Okay. One guy had asked me, what's the most amazing experience you've had? Something that you've witnessed or done. And that's similar to the real life hero thing, but not necessarily.
The most, say it again, please.
Most amazing thing you've witnessed or been a part of. Obviously most parents would say the birth of my child, but even after saying that, they go, oh, well, that's too generic. Let me think of something better.
Now, amazing doesn't necessarily mean it's a good thing. It could be a bad thing.
Yeah, and let's try to stick with the positive ones. I have gotten that too. Because I have plenty of negative stories. I try to
Sure.
stick with the positive.
Yeah. Let's see. Most amazing. That I've seen or witnessed, not read or heard about or studied.
All right.
I'm a martial artist, and I was watching a movie, a Korean
No problem.
movie, and it was historical.
I'm sorry, a what movie?
It's a Korean drama,
Oh, okay.
but they're historical. They're the ones from the ancient times, and they try to keep them as historically accurate as they can. This technique that this fellow did was absolutely amazing. And having watched a lot of martial arts movies and being a martial artist, I can weed out the theatrics from what's really possible.
Mm-hmm.
And what this guy did was absolutely possible. Very difficult, but it was amazing and something that I had never thought of before. That's rare. I've been doing martial arts for over half a century. And it's rare to find something that I haven't seen at least the concept of. But that was really amazing. It really made me joyful
So
to see it.
it blew your mind in a positive way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was totally amazing what he could do. There are some other martial artists that are pretty amazing too. Tony Jaa, he's a Thai boxer. Not what you normally see as Thai boxing on TV and in competitions. He has the real deal from the village. And I've seen him do demonstrations. Some pretty nice stuff.
I'm hearing silence out there. I want to make sure my ride is still out there. I'm going to let this run.
If not, I can take you where you need to go.
Could you?
Sure.
Okay, you are still here. I want to make sure because it got quiet out here. I'm going to leave the door open now. But
You're done with the recording?
no, we're still recording actually right this minute.
So you can edit it out.
What's that?
We have a dinner invite. I just want to ask you.
Oh, okay.
Do you want to go down to dinner with the speaker?
Sure. That'd
Okay.
be cool.
Okay, I'll accept for us.
All right, thank you. Okay, covered the most amazing. Something that was brought up at the discussion table today about taking over the world. The question, the way I ended up phrasing it, is what would you accept and or expect from a global government?
Well, first of all, obviously, secularism. But more than that, a genuine interest in the governance for the good of the people.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the only reason they should exist. And in some ancient societies in Asia, the kings were sometimes consumed with the concept of being a father to the people, or a mother to the people, as the case turned out to be. Unfortunately, many others didn't take that point of view, but that's what I would like to see. Something that nurtured society rather than just strong-armed it.
The way I try to put it is that the purpose of any government, global or otherwise, is to establish, maintain, and improve the stability of the governed. Stability could mean different things, but I think that's a good generic word for it.
I think so.
So that would kind of fit in with your
Sure,
requirement.
absolutely.
There was a third question. I can't remember what it was. What question would you like to ask the general population, the internet? What would you like to know? That's similar to what would you like to ask me, but
I don't think they're ready for me to ask them.
ooh, I want to hear that question. You ask me that question. Don't ask them. Ask me.
Wow, it would be volumes,
Then pick one or two.
How much longer are we going to turn a blind eye to and ignore primitive thinking in our society to the detriment of our society?
And unfortunately, I don't think that answer would be helpful. I think a better question is how do we change that primitive thinking?
And that would be probably the next question.
Yeah.
First, I want to establish that there is a situation that needs to be changed,
Yeah.
and then
So
start
first
discussing
identify
how
the
to
problem.
change it. Yeah.
First identify it, then deal with it.
Right. I've often, and I may still get around to it, thought about writing a book or a very long article about what I would like to see the atheist communities do, in total, to start moving us towards an entirely secular society.
And that's why I would like to create rules for a global government. I've got three basic ones. The exceptions to all rules, including the first rule. Because no matter what rule anyone comes up with, someone is going to make an exception for it.
So maybe that rule should be adaptivity.
Yeah. Rule number 2 is actually my most important when I answer my own question, is freedom. I define freedom as you should be able to do anything you want as long as it doesn't take away that same freedom from another person. Without
Or any other freedom from that.
Yeah, but you can take it away from them with their permission.
Sure.
So my example is I could order you to tie my shoes, I could ask you to tie my shoes, or I could pay you to tie my shoes. There's different levels of control in there.
Mm-hmm.
Mutually beneficial, or just altruism, or, absolute asininity if you want.
How about cause no harm?
Yeah.
Kind of hard to pin down. You'd have to have a whole lot of subsections under that title, but
I've experienced way too much harm to know that it's a preventative from other things. Surgeries, for instance. Being a brain tumor survivor, I don't know if you'd known that about me.
yes, I do.
So yeah, I've had way too much time to think about too many different things, and this internet show that I'm trying to start up is the result of it.
Yeah, I also survived cancer.
Really? Which one, if you don't
I had a
mind?
breast cancer
Wow, that sucks.
twice. My kind of runs in my family for some reason.
I had a neighbor that had it 3 times, and I'm like, you only have 2,
I was in the same side.
Yeah. So.
Well, I feel the same way about it. Don't your rights end when they begin to infringe upon the rights of someone else.
Yes.
So be considerate of other people. I mean, even if most people won't deny themselves for the benefit of another, and I think they need to.
Yeah. Another little poetic phrase I have is that love and freedom have no value unless you give it to people.
Very true.
If I say you're not allowed to get married, well, then I'm not allowed to get married. And they actually tried to outlaw marriage for a while. It was getting really ridiculous. So anything else you would like to add to this interview? I plan on posting it online with all the rest of mine. I've got a Facebook page where I just put up all the things. I haven't edited any of them except for one. A friend of mine I knew since high school. He knows my family and had named a few, and I figured, well, let's delete that.
Yeah.
Let's, protect the innocent. So that's my intention for this at the moment. But again, it's a stepping stone to understanding people and taking over the world.
Pinky in the brain.
Yes. Heard that reference too. All right, anything else?
No, I've enjoyed this, actually.
Yes, again, the expressions on your face, I'm just watching your mind contorts like, how do I phrase this to where I mean it? And I don't get that a whole lot from deeply religious people. They either blurt it out or they don't trust me at all and just think I'm out to screw them over somehow.
Right.
It's like, well, if you say the word "not" in your interview, I can cut that out and put that in front of everything that you do believe. But I'm not that kind of person, and I'm not going to take that much time to do that.
Well, they have a little bit of trouble grasping reality and what's most likely to be.
Their view of reality is much different, I'll say that.
Yeah, I'm not sure they know what it is yet. For a lot of them, I've met a lot that will alter the reality to be whatever they want it, and then they try to actually live it like it's really true. I've met a few like that. Wow.
Yeah. Another thing I want to comment on earlier, I forget what the topic was, but when my neighbor and I would chat, And I found her completely amiable, friendly, and everything, but occasionally she would just bring up that she's a Christian.
Right.
And she wouldn't just say that she's a Christian, she would say, "I'm a Christian!" Like
it meant something.
yeah, like if you know, "I'm a Christian, I'm going to kick your ass if you, refute me." And it's
Sure,
like,
sure.
I'm
Like I'm
really
superior to everyone else because I'm a Christian.
yeah, and it seemed like, if I gave her any shit, she would beat me up, and I'm like, well, fortunately I don't have a reason to give her any shit, so hopefully we can still get along,
That would kind of make me want to give her some.
Yeah,
But then, it would depend on my mood. If I'd been having a bad day, I would definitely give her some crap. But ordinarily, I would just kind of look
she
at
wasn't
her
just
as,
in the neighborhood, she was next door,
Yeah, either way, it wouldn't matter.
and she had a little puppy that I loved to play with, and
But ordinarily, I see ignorance for what it is and don't bother myself wasting my time with it.
yeah.
If there's an opportunity to enlighten them, at least a little bit, or at least get them thinking a little bit, I might spend a little time with that. But for the most part, I think it's the masses that we need to win over, not individuals. And a lot of people say, well, it starts with one, you do one at a time. No, I don't think so.
Well, it has to start somewhere.
Well, it starts somewhere, but they, a lot of the people who've told me that have taken the position that it's impossible.
You about ready?
Oh, they are, yes.
Okay. All right, so let's wrap this up. Thank you very much. I don't remember if I was allowed to use your name, so I won't use it. And I'll get this up, and I'll find a link to you somewhere online and send it to you.
All righty?
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.